Welcome to Rocky's Ramblings, the show that encourages you to get out and do your own rambling. I'm Rocky, the host and producer of Rocky's Ramblings. This episode represents an evolution of my original objectives for this show. If you've been watching our episodes, you know that my goal is to highlight places and events far enough in advance that you can make plans to ramble there for yourself. I did just that ahead of the Memorial Day weekend. That show, which also highlighted the annual D-Day commemoration on June 6th, was aired 2 weeks before Memorial Day, with a special encouragement for you to attend your local Memorial Day service. Today's episode is a follow-up to that show, the annual commemoration of D-Day in Bedford, Virginia, a very moving event. I hope that you will take this episode as an encouragement to attend these national commemorations yourself. Because of the solemn nature of this show, I will air it uninterrupted. That being the case, allow me to take a moment first to encourage you to make sure that as you go about your rambling, you are driving a safe, well-maintained vehicle. Your defensive driving tip for this week is to make sure that you've had plenty of sleep before getting behind the wheel of your vehicle. Make sure you are fully alert. So join me as I ramble to the National D-Day Memorial in Bedford, Virginia for the 73rd anniversary of D-Day.
We invoke your presence as we assemble, thankful for the lives and deeds of the men and women who have, throughout the history of this nation, taken up arms to defend the rights you endowed us with. Too often, we take for granted freedoms and liberties alike. Forgive us for that lapse. During this 73rd anniversary of the Allied landing in Normandy, awaken us to the courage and commitment that enabled the Allied forces to persevere in adversity, to bridle the impulse to revenge and to show mercy and victory. Inspire us by their example to do our duty as citizens each day, and when asked to serve our country, to render worthy service in response. Inspire us to set our values by the measure of those heroes whose feet touched higher ground on 6 June 1944, the day they died for liberty. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. Amen.
of the Allied Expeditionary Force. You are about to embark upon the great crusade for which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, you will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world. Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well trained, battle-hardened. He will fight savagely. But this is the year 1944. Much has happened since the triumphs of Nazis in 1940 and 41. The United Nations have inflicted upon the Germans great defeats in open battle, man to man. Our air offensive has seriously reduced his strength in the air and their capacity to wage war on the ground. Our home fronts have given us an overwhelming superiority in weapons and munitions of war, and placed at our disposal great reserves of trained fighting men. The tide is turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory. I have full confidence in your courage, your devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let us beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.
Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor. Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith. These men are lately drawn from the ways of peace. They fight not for the lust of conquest. They fight to end conquest. They fight to liberate. They yearn but for the end of battle, for their return to the haven of home. Some will never return. Embrace these, Father, and receive them, thy heroic servants, into thy kingdom. And, O Lord, give us faith. Give us faith in thee, faith in our sons, faith in each other. Thy will be done, Almighty God. Amen.
That P-51 that you see flying overhead is a tribute to Jerry and all of our veterans here today. The P-51 Mustang, probably more than any other aircraft, symbolizes the successful role that air power played in the invasion of June 6, 1944. That P-51 is flown by Andrew McKenna. Andrew, a staunch supporter of men and women in uniform, has volunteered his time and his aircraft to honor our World War II veterans. And here he comes again. So as you look skyward and see that plane go by, you can imagine a young Jerry Yellman who flew an airplane just like that in the skies over Japan 73 years ago. Actually,
and I don't think I've ever seen anything that impressed me more than this D-Day Memorial. Bedford should be proud, our nation should be proud, and I'm looking at the faces of men who might have been my brother-in-law, who landed on D-Day with 37 buddies and only 6 walked off alive. I was 17 on Pearl Harbor Day, 1941, December 7th. And I heard about the attack on Pearl Harbor, and I made up my mind that I was going to fly fighter planes against the Japanese. I went to the Armory, I got all the papers. The guy who gave me the papers, the sergeant, said, "Are you smart?" I said, "Why do I have to be smart?" He says, "Well, you have to have 2 years of college to become a fighter pilot or pass an equivalent exam." On my 18th birthday, February 15, 1942, 2 months after Pearl Harbor, I presented the papers to my mother and father and insisted that they sign them, and they did reluctantly. I then took the physical exam, the mental exam, and the physical exam, and I passed the mental exam, I flunked the physical. I had 20/30 vision in one eye. And Major Lee, a Chinese doctor, said, "Go home, stay in a dark room, eat a lot of carrots, and don't read anything. Come back in 3 days and take the test again." Well, my mother came home. She was working on a draft board. And I asked her, "Mom, do you have a copy of the eye chart you can bring me?" And she said, "Yes." So she brought me the eye chart. I memorized the eye chart. I went back, took the exam, and I passed. And I was inducted into the military in August of 1942. The evil of the world are people willing to kill other people for what they believe. That's ISIS. That was Germany, that was Japan, that was Italy. And the 3 countries that we fought against were made into democracies by the leaders of America in 1946 and 7 and 48 and 49. The 2 countries that we fought with as allies seemingly are the enemies of the world today, Russia and China. And science has brought us from rocks, which was the first weapon, to nuclear warfare. And if that ever happens, life on Earth will be unsustainable. So I believe that this D-Day Memorial has to be here forever. And I've written a check, small check, and I'm asking you to write a check, keep this alive. We need to preserve freedom in the world. Franklin Roosevelt, in 1941, January, on his 3rd election, spoke about the 4 freedoms. 4 freedom speech. Everybody should listen to that. The freedom of expression for all people all over the world without fear of redundancy. The freedom of worship of any God or no God for all people all over the world. The freedom from want. Everyone should have something to eat, something to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to for all people all over the world. And the freedom from fear that another nation will attack you. That should be heard by every person in America today. And they should also read what MacArthur said when he retired and he spoke at West Point about duty, honor, country. This memorial needs to be preserved, and I ask you, please, if you can, make a donation. April, thank you very much for allowing me to be here and to be present. I speak not for myself, but for the 16 million guys that I served with in uniform, and for the 8 million young women who are the Rosie the Riveters. I leave you with this message. There are 3 professions: policemen, firemen, and military people who put on a uniform. And when they put that uniform on, they pledge to give their lives in the line of duty when necessary. Thank you so much.
Dear veterans, in commemoration of the 73rd anniversary of D-Day, it is with great emotion and gratitude that I am joining today the people of Bedford, and especially the families of those long-fallen servicemen for whom this majestic memorial was built, so that the world would never forget the sacrifice of the boys of Bedford. 236 years ago, General Rochambeau and his soldiers, as well as Admiral Douglas and his sailors, helped America win its independence. The decisive victory won at the Battle of Yorktown led to the creation of the United States of America. In the 20th century, it was America who intervened twice, in World War I and World War II, to deliver France from occupation. At the invitation of the United States government, France participated in the commemoration of the centennial of World War I, when General Pershing led the American Expeditionary Force to help defeat the Germans on French soil. This commemoration was marked by a major ceremony held in Kansas City last April and a flyover of the French Air Force aerobatic team to Patrouille de France. During World War II, General de Gaulle's call to resist and defeat the German occupiers became a reality on June 6, 1944. Under the command of General Dwight Eisenhower, 150,000 Allied troops, including 70,000 American soldiers, landed on a 50-mile stretch of Normandy beaches to liberate Europe. 35 of those young men serving in the same company hailed from the small town on Bedford. Full of courage and determination about the immense task lying ahead, they boarded the landing craft for the D-Day invasion. By the end of that one day, nearly 4,500 Allied soldiers had lost their lives, including 20 from Bedford. 73 years later, the longest day still casts a dark shadow over this town. And those who survived and returned also suffered immensely from losing so many of their brothers. These young soldiers had lost their lives in the service of their own country, the United States of America, which had committed itself to achieving what seemed like an impossible task, the total liberation not only of France but of Europe. They had left behind the safety of their homes to take on a most formidable enemy in an occupied foreign land. Although in their late teens or early 20s, their bravery, determination, and sense of purpose were second to none. Again, our American allies had followed the path of General Pershing's army in World War I. And, like the men of Rochambeau and Lafayette at Yorktown, they had crossed an ocean. There were soldiers of 3 nations up in arms against occupation. In the cold mist of that grey morning, the powerful armada of Operation Overlord brought the liberators to the soil of France, where they broke through the wall of fire set off by the enemy. Omaha, Utah, Juno, Gaulle, Sword, these code names still resonate today as synonyms of freedom. A freedom paid dearly by those who fell in the sand, never to rise again. The soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice, among them the 20 Bedford boys, were serving their country and its core values in the world's most powerful and trained army. There were good sons, nephews and boys' friends who longed to return to their loving families. Their future was stolen from them by a faraway war. Yet, and they fought for were universal values of freedom and liberty. In defending a battered Europe under Nazi occupation, they defended the very foundations of their own nations. They joined forces with the French resistance, the underground organization of 500,000 men and women who had secretly assisted in their D-Day landing. Their junction would soon pave the way for the liberation of Paris, and within a few months, all of France, thus opening up the path to final victory. Today, as we did together in World War II to defeat Nazism, the French armed forces continue fighting shoulder to shoulder with the American and Allied armed forces, especially in the Levant and Sahel regions, to defeat terrorism brought on by ISIS, whose intent is to destroy the democratic values and culture of the Western world. Ladies and gentlemen, the French people will never forget what the sons of America, and especially the sons of Bedford, did to restore France's freedoms. Their contributions to our liberation was huge, since, as a small town, Bedford suffered the greatest loss of life during the French invasion. This magnificent memorial, which you dedicated 16 years ago, is such a symbolic tribute to these young American men who gave their blood to France and sadly never witnessed its liberation. Thanks to their admirable courage, dedication and belief in a better future, the ideals upon which our two nations were founded remain the solid basis of our democratic societies. They are a fundamental inspiration of the unique French-American friendship and alliance which transcends centuries. On behalf of the French people, please allow me to say again, thank you America, thank you Bedford, for giving your amazing young men to fight for our freedoms. Their unconditional engagements in World War II changed the course of history forever. They gave us back our priceless freedoms and paved the way for the rebuilding of a peaceful and most prosperous Europe, for which we are deeply thankful. I can assure you that gratitude and remembrance are forever embedded in our souls, and that every French person remembers the sacrifice of those American soldiers who fought for France's destiny. Long live the United States of America, and long live France. God bless you all.